vertical column and those kind of things, because they're in a form of matter that is a little bit different than what this form that we see on the outside is. We're going to be learning a lot about the elementals because we're being entrusted as the Indigo Shield with the elemental command of Earth. And that means there are still some of the elemental kingdoms of Earth that can be brought into host through Eartha. And the Eartha elemental command, we will work in cooperation with the ones who run that and their major races. That's where we get the Aurora races that we talked about in Shasta. So that's a different story. But whenever we are looking at things like this, just realize this is a quick energy photo of a massive consciousness collective that is alive. If you find yourself dreaming of that flame, and you might not even be able to see it clearly yet, you know, you just, yeah, I think that's that thing. I think that's it. There it is, three-dimensional. What color is that? Right? So it's like so bright, I can't really tell what color it is. There'll be a feel to it. It's an amazing feeling when you start to have a relationship with something that is in a form your conscious mind was taught was not alive. Like if you close your eyes and you see a ball of light, and all of a sudden your brain's going, yeah, ball of light. Yeah, well, sun's a ball of light. Yeah, whatever. It's a ball of light. And all of a sudden you feel it direct cognating to you. And you feel its identity. And you feel its presence as it's beaming its intelligence at you. And you realize that it's a lot smarter than you are. And you kind of go, ooh, that's not just a ball of light. It must be an ET. Right? That's usually the next thing the brain does. So when we're dealing with things like this, when we're dealing with elementals, if you start to see forms float by when you close your eyes, like shapes, some of them might be simple shapes like, you know, squares, circles, pentagrams, those kind of things. They are alive, just so you know. There are certain things that science has done in experimenting on humans that they can actually make the mind generate them. That's interesting. You know, electric shock, I think, was one of them. Right? Certain drugs will induce the ability to see the floating shapes. Right? What science doesn't recognize here is that they are part of the elemental consciousness field. Some of them take on shapes that we would recognize, like three-dimensional little fairies or big fairies, those kind of things. Or some of them might literally be just floating specks of things that when you close your eyes, you see them, and that means they want you to. Right? You won't see elementals directly unless two things. One, if they would like you to see them, so they therefore shift their energy in a way, because they know how to do that consciously, shift their energy in a way where you can perceive them, and that means they wanted you to. Or if you're working with higher councils that assist you in understanding the cloaking codes that certain elemental kingdoms use, so you can pick up their encryption, so then you can see them because you're there on, let's say, a guardian mission. All right, so otherwise, you just won't see them. You'll walk through them. They'll live in your body because your body's made out of them, that kind of thing. You know, so we all have our privacy, even though we're living in the same space. Yeah. So anyway, this is the structure, the mathematical structure of the flame. I can't wait to see it in color because it's absolutely gorgeous. We have, this one's like a pale blue color. This part is pale silver. This is pale gold. This is pale pink, and there seems to be a pale pink radiance that comes all the way up and around it. It's almost like an oscillating pink with a little bit of gold tint to it. It's really pretty. And these keep changing colors. One's like, I've seen these in turquoise, this part. I've seen some of these in the ones behind in violet. These tend to stay consistent, where we have silver, celestite, it's like a pale silver blue, and gold here. But these parts keep changing colors, and that must mean something, but they haven't told me what it means yet. So just so you know, the color things, if you want to think of it, they say call on the pink flame. They refer to it as the pale pink flame, and it's not magenta. It's pale pink. And it's the pale pink and gold, and it has to do with the crystallite core. It is the core flame. So next one, please. That's just to remind you when it gets its backflow currents going with a full open circulation, where it forms this leaf configuration. And it's, what were they? I think there were 7 on the outside and 5 on the inside. Yeah, I think that's how it is. 5 and 7. It was 12 pointed circulation plus a stem. So there's going to be more they're going to teach us about these and how to use these as we go along. We're going to probably see a lot of those like we did for a while of the earlier codes, where we used those quite a while. The codes are getting more complex, if you notice. They're getting to look more like pictures as opposed to just shapes on paper. And eventually, they will be pictures, because they're asking me to do some paintings and things called resonance alignment imagery, where they're going to take me on journeys, and I'm going to experience places and then come back and paint them. And they will actually be encrypted with the signature of those places. So it's a way to make gates to hang on your wall, basically, that kind of thing. So it works with these kind of things, too. These will be used as, they'll probably be part of the book Time Traveler's Guide to Symbols and Their Uses. And, they're basically directional symbols. When you work with these, what you're aiming for is the unici and the core. You're aiming for the crystal lake core councils and that first, most inner layer of creation. And right now, that's the best place to aim for. Right? We've worked with the outer councils before, and there's lovely Christic outer councils. The Eoni are lovely beings. The Adonai are lovely beings. Then they signed us over to the Hathor command and went into the hubs, because they still work with us, but they signed, they basically said, it's over our heads what's happening in that Becca. And they, put us under the guardianship of a higher council than them, or a deeper council. And the deeper you go, the more knowledge is held there. All right, so that's why we went up the dimensional scale, as far as they kept assigning us. Almost like graduating. We graduate to the next council up and the next council up. And then we're going to the councils in. Now at this point we're at the Crystal Lake Council, and that is the core council. And it's the first creation council, and it works through communicating with the Hathors in the inner hub councils, and they work through the Edom councils, and they work back out through our connections with the Adonai and the Eona and the Eoni and the Elohai and all those coming down the chain. So we have a really long dial-up at this point, and I do believe they're going to give us a shorthand. And I have a feeling the shorthand may not even be verbal. I think it's going to be visual. Yeah. Which saves a lot of, oh no, I got through the first 4 lines, and I'm so tired, now I go to sleep, and I forgot the last line. Or you get to the end and you go, oh, did I do that part? Because you actually blanked out while you were doing it, because you get used to doing it so much, and you phase back in at the end, and it's like, oh yeah, done. Am I? Where did I go? Right? I do that. Yeah, I think I did that. Or I've had it where it happens literally after I'll go, did I say Maharata Kumbhavectus? Like, talk about short-term memory problems. Whoa. Like nanosecond turnaround on that one. Lost that in a breath. Anyway, next one, please. Yeah, memory, too, by the way. Don't worry that you're, like, getting Alzheimer's early or something. If you go through bouts where you're lucky if you can remember your name for a week, this is part of the... When you get these frequencies in, the more you're growing, your body and neural networks have to make room for the new frequencies, and they'll start going on a self-delete program. Anything that's not essential right now, forget it. And you will, right? So it's helpful to write things down and make little notes for yourself, and not take it personally. Don't really get on your own case and get really worried that you're losing your mind or something like that. So, and there should be times when it comes back, or if whatever it was you did lose it and it just never came back, it probably didn't need it there anyway. But dates, things like birthdays and anniversaries and all that stuff, keep a book. Right? Yeah, phone numbers, yeah, children's birthdays, those kind of things. I mean, things that you think you'd never forget. I even have my social security number written down, and I had that memorized since the time I could breathe. His body knew that one because when you're born in America, you memorize your social security number. Now I actually have to think about it. Yeah, okay. Or if somebody tells me a phone number, I'll repeat it. Got that. 2 seconds later, what was that? Somebody will say, I'm coming over at 2 o'clock. Oh, okay. What time are you coming over? Right? So it's getting very strange, but this has to do with the amount of frequency, of new higher frequencies the body is trying to incorporate and anchor into the system. So it is a natural part of the reversing the mutation and purging the mutation program. This, again, is the unici. That has 2 sets of 15 cells put together, and is shown on the Cathara grid just to show proportions. It's shown without the flame, just so you can see more clearly the configuration that it forms at the center. And it alone is really, really pretty. Even in black and white, it has a really nice, I like this area. So eventually we're going to project through it. I think this is probably going to be a code 2 without the flame, so you can actually see and use this part. But I have a feeling that has to do with after you play with the flame for a while, then you can go behind the flame or through the flame and into what's inside the flame, which would be that, and that would take you in to, in through the door of creation kind of stuff. So these are going to be journeys once they tell us when, because right now they're not telling us to use them in that way. Okay, another one, please. That is the same thing, unicycle, but this time with the flame, and with the small inner flames that form the double heart, and that's the sacred heart basically, and it's two. It might even be the spiritual and the physical heart of God's source, where you have the atmic and the etheric heart, going, the one that's pointing down, the one that's pointing out. But this is just part of the codings we're going to be using. We're going to be using them in unique ways, too, they said. We're going to, at some point, have some kind of chakra technology. They might even be introducing that in Phoenix, but I'm not sure, where we're going to learn to do more things with the chakras. Because the chakras, once you have the power to heal the mutations they have, because right now they have a life of their own as far as the elementals directing them, and you could get very well just caught in them and dragged all over the place into spaces you don't want to be, and the chakra system has been very damaged by the Metatronic mutation. We're going to begin to heal that, and we're going to be working with using direct induction of these symbols into the specific chakra seals. And what the chakras do, and I've seen this before, and I've actually shifted events. They showed me how to do something once. It was a long time ago when something was upsetting me, and I knew it was like a karmic issue with a person, and it was like it just wouldn't resolve. No matter what approach you tried to take, there's still like this very negative energy, and it's very upsetting. And they said, try this. And they gave me this little chart that showed the main vertical column and just the 7 chakras that are in the body, right? Just little circles on the front. And they gave me a set of symbols, and they were just different, like encryption type symbols before I knew the word encryption here. And they said, now here, they told me which chakra circles to put them on, right? And they said, now color that, right? I said, color it. I said, use it as a coloring book. Color that picture you just made with that main vertical column and those symbols in it. All right, so I colored it, thinking, why? The act of using the hand and the eye and the focus of like even coloring or drawing actually strengthens the encryption. And then they taught me how to run it through to actually code them into the chakras. And it was amazing because by coding them into the seals, all of a sudden they were in my auric field all over the place. Like I put one symbol in, and all of a sudden I closed my eyes and I would see in one of the layers of my auric field billions of them. Just like, wow, how'd that happen? And they said, the chakras directly feed the gelesic layers of the auric field. Our auric field is like a huge party key, which is going to be interesting later. We'll talk about that. So we're going to be learning how to use these in unique ways that I think are a bit more advanced than the chakra induction technologies we have used. That will assist us in being able to, first of all, it will help heal very quickly any mutations we have. I know there's some people who have worked with other technologies before and they realize they got zapped pretty good by using certain symbols that are definitely not good for your biology and that kind of thing. If there's residual of that left in the system, these will progressively clear it out and take care of it, because these are the core encryptions. You can't overpower the core encryptions. So when we talk about encryptions, we've seen Cathara grids, all sorts of configurations of Cathara grids, that are actually the positions of the little gelesic units, the little jewel points in particular structures. But you can also use the structure itself. And I wouldn't doubt if there's a difference. Sometimes it's probably the right thing to use the Cathara structure without the spheres on it, and other times it's appropriate to use the spheres. So this would actually have a bunch of Cathara grids. Every time you see a sphere, it implies a Cathara grid structure of at least one, if not several. And I have a feeling each one of these 30 spheres probably has some kind of massive snowflake type thing. If you remember when the Cathara grids were all put together, there's tons and tons of them like a feathery snowflake. I wouldn't doubt that each one of these is probably one of those. That's why they didn't bother giving me the Cathara grid encryption for it, because we kind of got lost even before we got out of the Starborn cycle as far as trying to use put them together. So there again, and just, okay. Well, there's somebody behind it. Wow, who's playing games? That was really, really funny, because I just got as if somebody were standing back behind here, like a ghost, right? Poked its head out the center, went, hello, put it back Good. It's right here. Excuse me. Just letting you know we're here. Okay. Who's we? Doesn't sound like the usuals. You don't know me yet, but you will. Well, you obviously have council permission or you wouldn't be here. Yeah. Okay. I think we've got an elemental company, but the big one's from Eartha. This one feels like an Aquari, actually. There's a particular race called the Aquari that are helping with they're very connected to the Eartha fields, and they are affiliated with the Aurora races, and they are helping us a lot lately. They're also known as the blue dragons, but they're not dragons at all. They're not even a draconian race at all, but they carry the antidote codes to the draconian races, and I think this has to do with them. Or is it the other ones? No, it isn't. It's one of you. We were supposed to meet you at Shasta. You didn't show up. Oh, okay. This is the Ratagen. They're called the Ratagen. And for short, they just call them the genies. And they're albino. That's why it looked like a ghost. Because it was like this white head came poking out and said hello. Okay. Hello. Heads are poking out all over. Actually, they're poking in. Next one, please. So we got Ratagen. Oh, that's neat. And that's the Rosetta again. And that is another set of them. That one starts heats when I look at that. Where I start to get, it starts for some reason around the lotus centers here, and then it crawls up the back of my head and makes my head tingle. Yeah. So you can, I'll leave it just for a minute or two just to, breathe it a bit and play with it. Yeah. I think we should have a whole workshop where we just get these all in like great color, right? And get a projector and like put them all over the walls and turn the lights out, right? Kind of like experiential art. You just go in and they're all over and just sit there and breathe. Maybe, maybe I could do an installation like that. They said I have to go be an artist. Well, nobody said it had to be flat on canvas all the time. So maybe we'll play something like that. Because these would be very powerful. I wish that we had the ability to make videos, because, like, to do the computer graphics and things, because some of this stuff would be just breathtakingly gorgeous to see it in animation, with the beautiful colors, and to show the processes and the whole bit. But it'd take me 500 years to learn how to use a computer in order to do that. And we certainly can't afford to, that costs a lot of money to pay somebody to do those. But in the meantime, we've got these. And they're not as pretty as they would be if they were three-dimensional and like hanging like a hologram in the room. But they still serve the same purpose. So I'll have to leave the rest up to your minds and light bodies. I always want to pet this. I don't know why, but it feels like there's a texture in the energy that it would feel like some kind of very ethereal velvet, just soft, like not velvet even, more like flower petals, but super, super soft. There is a feel to it, and to get that off a black and white thing like this, that's pretty interesting. I can't wait till they're in color. See us all zone out, we'll be lost in the symbols. Like, forget it. Call us when you're ready to take us home. I need a cardboard box, a bit of food once a week, and my pictures. Right? We do that. We did that on Tara a lot, but not because we were escaping anything, but it was natural to put your body down for 6 months, a year at a time. You'd put it in climate-controlled situations, energy-controlled situations. Didn't have to wire it to anything. If you had the right energy environment around it. Everybody had these places in their basements. They would be their sati stations. And you go and you drop the body and go out in sati. And you go do all sorts of other things in other reality fields. And then come back to the body. It would upset your spouse sometimes. Because, you've gone again. Right? Yeah. I remember I was somebody that was upset with me because I was a male in one of those incarnations, and I did that a lot. Where it was like a part-time lifetime. Like the body was there the whole time, but I wasn't. And there are whole cultures that actually do this normal. Like how I think in Spanish cultures they do siesta, or maybe it's just Mexican. I'm not sure. Well, siesta can be an afternoon, or it can be 600 years. Kind of like Rip Van Winkle society. Right? if the bodies are running naturally and you put them in the right type of supportive natural environment, you don't need to wire them into stuff and feed them intravenously and all that kind of stuff. They have the ability to maintain and to do a slow, almost like hibernation sparking, that will keep them alive while you're out and being busy. So anyway, back to this. Next one, please. That's showing it with the flame, just to remind us that that is there too. Oh, jeez, this is getting weird. I'm hearing, it's not just me anymore. I'm hearing people go, can you see anybody from the outside, right? Watching this group of people stare at a picture of Mylar, black and white, of circles and stuff that's roughly drawn, and going, what kind of cult is that? Right? They stare at Mylars and sigh. Right? Now, if they understood what we understand, they would probably sigh too. Go, oh, that's cool. Okay. But it gets to the point where the more you know and the more aware you become, the more weird you look to other people. Right? And then you get to the point where that doesn't bother you at all, and you don't care, and you care about them, and you also can find it funny, and they might not. But you can find it funny, and especially if they're related to you, and like, how dare you be this way? And it's like, I know, isn't it great? What? No, you can't. Yes, I can. Right? You shouldn't. Yes, I should. You know? So anyway, next one. Bye-bye. See you later. I like that one, too. We've had that one for ages now with the Guitar 2-3 manual. But even that, there's that same feeling right in through here. And it's really funny because I get certain areas of, it must be my brain or maybe my skull, but it goes tingle, like when your hand falls asleep kind of feeling. And it just goes, and runs up. I get this one I've got here, where the other one started here and ran up back here. So it's obviously activating things when you look at them. I don't know what exactly it's doing, but I know it's good and it feels good. Can't wait to see what our gift is tonight. Go sit on one of your diagrams, right? Haven't tried that yet. You know. Laminated love mats. Kind of like blankies with big codes, like life-size codes that you could lay in and on, you know? Yeah.
We're the laminate.
Hmm?
We're the laminate.
Yeah, not hard laminated. Not hard laminated. I was just thinking, wipe off a bowl. Next one, please. Next one. Oh, yeah. The color does amazing things to these. I can't wait to see the others in color. I'm almost desperate enough to see them in color where I'm going to get out the colored pencils. And I can do it, but it's painstaking and horrible, and it never, ever comes out as nice as who does them. Never. You know, I can spend 6 weeks with colored pencils, but it doesn't do that. I haven't tried acrylics yet, though. Yeah. There's another one. You know, what is the next one I have? You know, I'd like to put one of those back with that one. Let's try the Rosetta, I think. Yeah, let's try that. Let's do that one again just for a minute. Just to get the color. Imagine it's spinning. The color spinning behind it. The other one's spinning behind it. Ooh. I give me the chills just visualizing it in my head. Okay, can we try the... There's another one, too. Oh, I know. Let's put the Lotus one on those. Yeah. I just want to see what they do. Just for a second. The genie's chuckling at me. Is it all right if I call you a genie? They're really, really big, by the way. Like tall up there. He's on his what? Knees are in the floor, feet are down under somewhere, and head is just touching top. And it's a white hominid person. Looks like a person, like an albino person. Bald. No hair. Bald. looks like very, very soft, almost translucent white skin, and the large almond-shaped kind of reishi eyes. And they appear to be gold. That's how I'm seeing them anyway. Are you a reishi? You're not a reishi. No. You're a Ratajin. Okay. Nice to meet you. Anyway. I guess they're coming in for the activation. We're going to have to do something. There's got to be something we can do to create these where you can put them together with color, right, and spin them through each other, just for meditation. You know, even if you can't do it, I mean, on a computer you could do it easily, but something that, you know, even if you could just do it manually, even if it was like a light fixture that had a rotating something that you could, you know, do. But there's a life that it would make it happen faster. It would bring the frequencies in faster if we could do that. Okay. Yeah, let's, nah. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Why not? If there were more color, it would be more fun. Can you imagine them all spinning? You know, different directions, different speeds. Start sparking right off the page, probably. Yeah. Yeah. If they were in color, it would be really interesting to see, but the black just dominates them too much. Oh, well, anyway, let's get back to... I love this. Yep, back to normal. Normal pictures, data graphs. Now, after we talked about the starborn cycle and played with our code people for a while, now it's back to this is just to remind us of quite a while ago when we talked about the difference between living light units, which are the chalet units, they're in the Tribeca configuration, and ones that become dead light units that go into Metatronic reversal. And this is just to, I'm not going into heavy discussion on that because that's in other workshops. I've already covered it. But it's just to remind you of the connection that the spark pulse currents that are generated through the starborn cycle, they deliver light units. And the light units that they deliver, that they give birth to, are the natural Shalaya light units. Shalaya light units, just like the large light cells that create them, are capable of phasing. So they're capable of self-regeneration. That means they're also capable of star-borning themselves, where they can bud, budding cycle type stuff, where they can make more of themselves. And there's going to be a point in time, and I think the texts are massive on this, but where we start to really understand the structures behind what we see as atoms, where we start to understand the molecules in our body and actually see the structures behind them that are giving the form to the molecules. The molecules on this planet right now bond in unnatural ways that has to do with the fact that a large percentage of the light base is mutated into the metatonic configuration, which means dead light. It can't phase anymore, and it will eventually burn out and just turn to space dust. It leaves a bit of I forget what they call it. I think it's a calorine. I think they call it the little dust bit that gets left after a light unit burns out because it lost its connection to its primary phaser. Anyway, just to remind you of living light and dead light. Next one, please. Now, this is to bring it down again to, we've been talking about sacred sex, and we've been talking about that there's a mutation on this planet that's caused by environmental factors. And I want to bring this home because we're going to get, at the end of the workshop, we're going to talk a bit about the environmental factors because they directly affect our sexual energies, and we are being given a chance now to rapidly undo the damage. But some people have seen these, and most of you have seen these, but some of the new people might not have. Just to point out, when we talk about the damage that's done to the planet, where the natural structure, if this is Earth here, this is the natural structure of just its density 1 light body, where it has its D1, 2, and 3 counterparts in there, and then its large, simple Bibecker-Merkaba field, and its primal light fields around it. It should have a vertical axis, right? Natural vertical axis. It would have the natural, what's called the Yin-Yun magnetic flows. They're the natural flows. It would have natural lotus arcs at 45 degrees that would phase, and that would move the light body structures around that would allow it to spark so it could self-regenerate. It would be built upon the divine blueprint pattern, which is this. For a while we were using this, which was the Mente interface pattern, which was an attempt to heal the distortions in the grid back to this, but the Mente gate systems fell, and that particular part of the Mente rescue mission of this planet did not work. But this is the natural configuration of the ruche, or the crisscross, and it's the shield configuration that runs both horizontally and vertically. It is the configuration that we talked about yesterday that gives the spirals. If each one of these creates a pillar going vertically, the horizontal shield creates one going vertically, and then the shield is spinning, it creates the spinning currents of the Rushite spiral that runs up and down the center vertical column of your body, but also up and down the center vertical column of the planetary body as well. So all things have the natural structure. They're built on these energy structures, because all things have a light body, but not all things have a Christic light body anymore. But all things did start with a Christic light body. So our planet used to, and Eartha still does, have its natural vertical axis to what would be considered north. Now, it's north in relation to its own self, but it's also, which means it points to the center of its Eka. It's in a Veka system. It would point upward to the center of its Eka. That would be the natural north for that Veka. It also has a natural relationship. It would have a natural relationship to its sun. Any sun would have its natural north axis up, right? And the planets around it would all naturally hold that same configuration of their north axis being up. So these arcs of energy could move between them. It would be open circulation of energy and consciousness and communication between all of the planets and its sun on a regular basis. And there would be communication going vertically through the tops of the Merkabas and down through and under. So from the sun would transmit energy out, and the top of a planet would receive it and process it back out, send the energy back, and the sun would receive it again. So it would be creating loops of energy this way. And there would also be the spinning rods that are the rod currents that run across horizontally from the Azure level. And each of the planets and the sun would have the relationships as they rotate. They would be sending currents out with their rods, and those currents would be intermingling. And this is the natural structure of a living eternal life. Solar system has the ability to spark and to arc. They call them the arcs and the angles, or the archangels. They're not angels, they're angles. But this is a natural configuration. If our solar system was in this configuration, we wouldn't be having the problems with the DNA that we're having right now, or a lot of the other things that we're having problems with, because, but what we are dealing with now, you know, the thing that gives us I think they say it gives us the seasons, the equinox, and all of that kind of thing, with the tilt of our axis, because we have a 23.5 degree tilt in our north axis compared to the sun's, and that creates the ecliptic, which is a completely unnatural configuration. It's a distortion of the natural shields. Every planet has a shield, or several of them, but a main shield that runs out horizontally, as well as one that circles around it vertically. But the horizontal shields should all be on the same plane, so they can circulate energy through each other. And when you have something with its axis tilted from its sun, if the sun's axis is like this, and you have a planet that's axis is like this, it breaks the natural circuit of energy, and also tilts the shield at a funny angle, where it no longer receives the energy from the rod of the sun as the sun spins through its solar plane. And that is the problem we have on this planet. And science will verify that for me. There are certain teachers of Metatronic stuff out there that say, oh, well, if it appears in nature, see, it was true. And it was like, yeah, we teach everything. It appears in nature. You'd always say it appears in nature. Yes, the Metatronic spiral does appear in nature. There's many things do. They are evidence of the mutation. What does not appear in nature right now in our solar system is this configuration. I think Uranus is literally on its side with its staff running where its rod should be. It has all of the different planets in our solar system have weird tilts because the system has been damaged, and that damage has been there for quite a long time. So it's not that we're alone in this. It's not just Earth. Next one, please. This is again just to show you to remind you of the divine blueprint, the natural structure of the divine blueprint that follows the ruche, which is also the same pattern of the monad, which is also the same pattern of the ruchite spiral. So it is the base core creation pattern. This is the configuration, the monadic configuration that is on axis 4, that is tachyon cycle 4, that is rebirthing this evening with the activations that are taking place in the planetary and earth grids this evening. So we can go on to the next one, please. This is just doing a really quick recap on some of the messes that we've talked about what is causing the problem in the DNA and on this planet. It has to do with we've talked about our natural Taran light unit. We talked about the planetary Taran, and the planet is supposed to have a Taran. Tarans are supposed to have their axis up. They are axis 1, and they should have their top up. The planetary Taran of Earth is in this configuration with its top down. It has been harnessed by what is called the Daisy of Death configuration. That is a byproduct of the Metatronic code. And because of that, it cannot phase. It is phase locked, where it can spin around, but it can't pulse, it can't phase, it can't generate any more sparks, any more living energy. So it is because of the core of the problem on this planet has to do with the Taran, the planetary level Taran was harnessed quite a long time ago. And recently, I think it was November of last year, it was finally brought into full reversed activation, where they began to literally activate the Taran in this position on a Metatronic spiral. It can squeeze a little bit. Its particle key doesn't work, but it can squeeze enough to make sparks that will come out on what's called the Metatronic spiral, or the Fibonacci spiral. We call it the Fib of no Chi spiral because you don't get any energy out of it. What it does is suck energy off of you. All right? The Fibonacci spiral doesn't even have a relationship really with its own center. We'll compare. I'll show the thing where it compares the two of them. You can compare it to the crystal spiral in the sense of the context that we talked about. Crystal spiral is the same context that the Metatronic spiral is about, the Fibonacci spiral is about. It is a product of spark pulse currents and how they circulate through the light body structure. But it is a product of the mutation, is a product of the mutated Taran on the planetary level. The solar Taran also has a similar problem. Part of the solar Taran has also been configured into that direction. Now, for the new people, you might not know a lot about the work, or maybe you do. I don't know what you've studied at home or not. But the information we've brought through here isn't about a small problem. It's about a very long history, and it's about black hole technology that was used and abused in not just Atlantis. That was almost like the icing on the cake that was baked a long time ago. So all of this information fits in with that. And I just wanted to bring it home as far as when we're talking about, we have this great key generation cycle that we're a tachyon cycle. We're getting able to do this again. We're getting our Tarans being able to pulse again. And we're doing it in the middle of a planetary drama and a Vecca drama where there are large portions of the consciousness field here whose light bodies are going to go into the fallen light configuration, where they will not be able to reestablish the connection to source again until they return as space dust. That's what we talk about when we talk about black hole fall. So it is because of these distortions in the natural structure, it is because of the Taran being harnessed and used in reverse current and creating the Metatronic spiral, or the Fib of no Chi spiral, that we end up with the distortions that we have in the planetary fields right now, which will be mimicked by our own light bodies while we're on the planet until we generate enough current to override that mimic and set it back to its natural, which is what we are doing. Next one, please. Yes, please. Don't look at that for too long. Yeah, let's move that. I just wanted to show them real quick that that's what it looked like up close. That, by the way, was something I will not take credit for that drawing. That is a drawing that was found on the internet, and I forget the society that put that out. But they were putting out meditations in here, and I guess it was bright magenta that they had it in. Yes, to make sure the frequency goes right in there to the Metatronic coding. So anyway, that is the image of the reversed Taran, and it is the condition of the Earth Taran, the Earth light seed. But Earth was hosted into a larger planetary structure called Eartha, which was Stargate 3 in the Universal Vecca system. And that is still holding. The Eartha Taran is still capable as pulsing. It is because of the Eartha Taran that we were able to regenerate our Tarns and get ourselves back on a tachyon cycle where we could begin the healing and the regenesis cycle in order to prepare for Starfire. This is what the Metatronic mess has done to the planetary fields. Instead of the Merkaba being straight up, we have our ecliptic tilt here. We have the tilted Merkaba. We have the Cathara grid turned into the tree of death. Okay, we have daisies of death and trees of death, because this is a natural Cathara structure, and remember, those proportions are important. This whole mutation has twisted the energy relationships in a way where it creates tension where tension isn't supposed to be, static where static isn't supposed to be, and it has pulled in the catharic structure and actually compacted the light body structure and made it so it can't phase naturally. So we are on a dying planet, basically. And fortunately, this sphere of energy here that is going into its final black hole fall, not alone though, it's going with this solar system, is going with it. So it's not as if the Earth is going to fall. If it was, we'd be doing real fast evac, because if just a planet falls, you know it. You don't sit on a planet when it falls all by its lonesome and, you know, wake up in the morning and say, boy, that wasn't fun. You know, it does pole shift and all sorts of stuff. But when you have a good portion of an entire Vecca, you know, like almost 4 full densities of a Vecca falling, they fall together. So the natural relationships are still relatively there. Things will move around a little bit compared to each other, but it won't be as if one single planet, you know, fell out of a natural solar system or something where it would be cataclysmic for the planet. Now, it is cataclysmic for this Vecca, but it will be a long, long time before most forms that do go into that fall realize they even did. Some of them never will, and some of them don't care. So this is what the planetary structure is like. This is the Merkaba structure we have been overriding progressively. We at this point are able to keep our Merkabas where we want them. We can walk around with them even at the tilt, or we can just, they'll shift naturally to align with the best frequency sets. Sometimes you might find, by the way, that you get this urge where you just have to lay down, and it might not be a convenient time to do it. There's certain things that can be picked up because of the mutations in the planetary rod and staff. Sometimes your light body needs certain frequencies that you can get much easier if you just lay down and run your staff along the rod of, you know, on the planetary level, where it'll actually recharge you and make you feel better, and then you can stand up and you feel all right again. So there's strange things you learn, coping mechanisms you learn when you're walking around on a planet like this. We're fortunate that we were working with the technologies enough that there are still people here on this planet that can generate enough frequency to not fall into this and be succumb to this configuration of the light body structure, of a falling light body structure. We have this called the poison apple magnetic fields that are generated by this whole thing. All of these pieces are connected. So when we talk about the mutation, it's not as if we say that lightly or just like vague about it. We've analyzed the heck out of what this was. We've showed the difference between the Metatronic spiral and the crystal spiral. We've basically taken on the Metatronic teachings and said, excuse me, you're teaching Antichrist. You're teaching, you know, black hole technology. And we're not going after the teachers. Just tried to make it clear to anybody who cared about looking at metaphysics. Be careful what you play with. Compare for yourself. At least our spiral has a relationship to its center, has a relationship to its core, a natural relationship. And we're the ones that explained what that spiral was really about in the first place. We're the ones that explained about what that upside-down tarn was when they just called it little light balls. So who's explaining what? Anyway, here we are in a planet with these configurations. It has even these, this is where you get the daisy of death, as I like to call it, where the natural 45-degree lotus arcs are actually ruptured and pulled down, which actually squishes out the poles, the east-west poles of the light body, and that's where we get the earth bulge. So even you can see it in the matter form of the planet itself. We wouldn't be given this information if it wasn't serious. They wouldn't bother, teaching us this if this wasn't going to get us if they didn't, right? Because when there's so many things that the beloveds could have taught first or second or third. If we didn't need to know these things, they would have taught things that were more fun or whatever. They didn't teach us to scare us. They taught us so we'd know what was happening, so we would know how to hold ourselves in relation to it. All right, next one, please. Oh yeah, a bit more of that. When it comes to the Ruchete spiral, the planet has one too. And with this configuration, the Ruchete has actually been harnessed, the planetary Ruchete, and turned into a set of vortices called the gravitron. And it creates an unnatural, artificial gravitational field on this planet. And it's one of the things that you have to learn how to override to ever levitate or fly or any of those things. And it is an electromagnetic harness field. It's part of a larger structure of electromagnetic harnessing called the net The gravitron has been going through changes lately, and that has been kicking up over the last couple of years the Gulf of Mexico, because it anchors through at a particular angle through and some of the old, I believe they're Mayan temples in the area just off the Gulf there. So they have been kicking up storms ever since they activated it, and it's been progressively activating. It is... I won't go into what that is. I just wanted to show, especially the new people, that when we talk about this mutation on the planet, we are talking detail. We do know what we're talking about at this point. We're not just guessing or trying to use scare tactics. So this would have been the natural Ruchete spiral that should be running vertically, and is now actually split, where part of it's this way, another part's this way. And it's split at different angles. One of them is 23.5. I believe the other is 11.5 the other way. And it creates the unnatural electromagnetic fields on the planet, where we have geographical north in one place, magnetic north in another place, and they wobble. All this creates the Earth's wobble and the wobble within the wobble that aren't natural. You wouldn't have those wobbles if the planetary light body was intact and doing what it was supposed to be doing. Next one, please. Yeah. Oh, this is showing you what's called the yin-yang fields, that inside that poison apple electromagnetic field that's generated by all of these vortices doing the wrong thing, there is a configuration of energy that it too has a symbol, and it's a very ancient symbol, and it's sad because I always thought that symbol could be a good thing. But what it really is referring to is a tube torus configuration of energy, which is a compaction stance of the vortices turning in on themselves and perpetually cycling the energy inside and outside until it burns itself out, basically, or finds something else to feed off of. And inside of the poison apple there, you will have the yin-yang. And there's a little dot down here where it hooks into through the yin-yang configuration. It holds the 23.5 degree tilt on the planetary axis. It holds that mutation, that tilt in the axis. These are black hole technologies. These are advanced interdimensional science technologies that were orchestrated on purpose, and this planet has been a prison colony for quite a long time. And that's a rude awakening for a lot of people, but it's a good time to wake up, because it's like now or never at this point, and that's why we're teaching it. I don't like having to teach it, but it can also help you appreciate the other part of the teachings. If this is all we taught, I wouldn't want to hear it either. But we've been teaching the solutions first all along. We've been teaching a natural light body structure. We've been teaching that you have a direct relationship with Source, and don't let anybody compromise that. And we've been showing you some of the problems that are here, but these are small problems compared to the cosmos, right? Yeah, it's like this too shall pass. And it will. And we can choose, by what we do with our energy, what path we want to be on. We don't have to succumb to an environmental influence like this. This is like an environmental influence, just like, if you happen to move to the wrong place and they had contaminated water from a plant that used to be there a long time ago. You can stay there and get cancer, or you can learn how to transmute the stuff that would give you cancer so you can stay there anyway, or you could go someplace else so you didn't get cancer if you can transmute it. Basically, at this point, we tried the let's fix it, or then let's at least make our field strong enough where it didn't harm us. At this point, it's let's prepare to go someplace else, because the property values have just bottomed right out on this planet, right down a black hole. And it's past the point of even needing to feel sad about it, honestly. There are people that... They're collectives, they're families of consciousness, have chosen this path. Some of them have chosen to go that way. For those who need rescue and who are still sound asleep in their life and probably always will be, there are still missions being run by the guardian races that through their own soul collectives they will try to assist them. You'd be amazed at who you might find once we get through gates. We find out who else got there too, by a different way, They may say, wow, how'd you get here? Did a pretty big white bird come fly and pick you up too and take you to this magical place? No, we learned metaphysics for 10 years before we could go through the gate ourselves. Right? I think I'll try it your way next time. Right? But whatever it takes, you know what I mean? How are we doing on time? Anybody know? 11? Okay. Okay, because I'm going to give time for a bathroom run before we get into the thingy, because it would be best not to have to do that if you're in the middle of that. Yeah, go to the next one, please. That's just a more close-up. You know, black and white really has its limitations. If this were in color, you could see more of it. It's just showing a close-up of the energy mess that in here would be Earth, and it's tilted, you know, Cathara grid, density Cathara grid. What this is showing, and the reason I did this big one, is showing the poison apple magnetic field is showing that it generates this yin-yang configuration that actually is the tube torus. It creates the tube torus configuration by twisting the natural currents that are supposed to be running through the rod and the staff. And what all of this creates is this mess here, these trumpets. These are like satellite dishes. They're unnatural vortices where there should be a natural vortice set going up and you know, one going down, like natural Stargate vortice sets, Merkaba sets. It's distorted them and twisted them and turned them into these, where you see these vortices hooked together, it's actually through the electromagnetic force that they generate. They actually are held together, and they wobble back and forth. And what they do is bring in frequencies instead of anchoring the natural frequencies that would normally come down the central vertical current of the Earth. What they do is tilt the central vertical current of the Earth and then open it like a satellite dish to receive incoming frequencies from certain black hole systems that have already fallen, and they're the ones that brought the technologies here to do this. So they could actually pull the quantum of our system into their system. These black hole systems will eventually implode on themselves. They can, you know, once they do black hole fall, they can't get out of that fall. They may have 1 billion years, but when that clock is up and that they don't have any more, their seed atom, the universal seed atom doesn't have any more quantum left, that whole universe will implode and just go back as space dust, and then it will go back into natural creation as Partakai units and go back into, you know, in the next like starfire cycle and be regenerated. But as far as the life forms and the structures, they will be taken back to their primal units once full black hole fall has occurred. What these vortices do on this planet is bring in the linking frequencies that have allowed progressive invasion of this planet from afar, and to the point where the people walk around here and they don't even know things exist besides the things that live on this planet, which talk about mind control. Oh my God, we don't even remember there's anybody out there besides ourselves, and that's really sad. What's interesting, there's one more piece to this mess that I didn't know, and that was what they scribbled on my way out the door as I was coming down here an hour late. We'll talk about it when we get there, but there was one, it's almost like as if this wasn't enough, you know, like just add insult to injury kind of thing. So I'll tell you about that, but it has to do with this and what was done to actually assist in having this work, where there were certain energy forces they were able to use to enable this mess of Metatronic beast black hole system creation to be done here. There were certain energies that were harnessed in order to do it, and that allowed them to have enough power to override the natural, say, healing currents that would have been running through the Earth as shield. And at the end, we'll see what that was. Next one, please. This is comparing the two spirals. The natural crystal spiral is it over here? I can't see these graphs from here. That looks like us. Yes, natural crystal spiral. There's the one that's built on the precise expansion rates of the Cathara grids, and it gives a particular curve when you follow the top points of each of those. In that the natural star-born expansion cycle gives you a specific curve of the spiral of energy, of the spirals of energy they're coming out of, they're progressively coming out of creation. They're the ones that will form the flames as well, when you go through the tachyon cycles and stuff. Over here is the shape of the Metatronic spiral, or the Fibonacci spiral, and it taps in to the natural crystal spiral and sucks energy off of it. That's how it creates. It has to have something in the center to feed off of. And it interfaces with, if you look at this graph, it shows, if you can see through it, where I see that rectangular shape there, that would be here. So in there, you would have the Metatronic spiral. It interfaces over in this area, where you have crystal spiral, being this one, right, running where these dots are, right? That would be the crystal spiral. The Metatronic spiral links in and crosses through and cuts into it over here, into the crystal spiral, and sucks energy off of it in order to feed itself and its growth. And there are things that their whole growing rhythm is on the Metatronic sequence and on the Fibonacci sequence and that kind of thing. And they are things that are running the mutated light and the mutated seed atom and the Metatronic code. And there's a lot of evidence of that on this planet already. There's many plant forms that bear that configuration of the Fibonacci sequence and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to come up with, trying to find the full Chris code sequence, because it's a different set of numbers. But it's a bit tricky because you have your variable constant of the third flame, and then you have the divine constant of the 3, and you have that 3 and the third, and then you have the 11 and 2/3, 33 and a third, and the 45. So there's a lot of numbers there to try to figure out what is it actually doing, right? But one thing with when you compare the spirals is, and I didn't find this, Noel found this because he's good at math, and he found that even numerically, it has the difference is this has a relationship all the time. At all times, it has a direct relationship with its center. It always has a relationship to source, and energy always spirals, back and forth with source. Well, this one doesn't have a relationship with its center. It starts from a set of boxes, and it's very, very strange. So I won't try to explain that, but Noel pointed that out to me. I was like, wow, that's really neat. And even numerically, he said he's finding more and more about it, isn't he? I didn't read that latest thing. I didn't have time yet. But there are people that know, the mathematical things more than I do, that are looking into this and saying, that this is, much more pure spiral. I mean, look at it. Even just the center point, that's what got me, was it has a relationship to its center, to the point of its creation. And it always does. No matter where it expands, how big it gets, it's being self-generated rather than artificially generated. So this is when we talk about the Metatronic code, and it involves the Fibonacci spiral. It involves the Daisy of Death configuration that is not the living lotus. That I won't go further than that. But anyway, just so you know what the mutation has. When we talk about making the crystal connection, it's about connecting directly in to the crystal spiral. Before, as of, I believe it was the Easter workshop in February, there was a way, because what is going to happen in our Vecca system, I explained yesterday that our universal Vecca Cathara grid, its staff connection to its Eka, where those 4 Vecca systems come together, its staff connection has cracked off, and it no longer holds its connection to its Eka, so it will tumble, it will fall in a black hole status. Before that occurs, there was an ability to create what was called the rainbow bridge, which was a spiral that would assist in pulling some of the energy back from the Metatronic spiral that is taking the Vecca into black hole fall. And it would create a third spiral temporarily in here, and it would give a lot more people an ability, and life forms, not just humans, but life forms the ability to have more time to generate more keys and clear more of their light body. So by the time Starfire, which is the inhale, where what's left of this Vecca will inhale back into the middle realm and then back into the hubs in order to recharge, and anything that can't ride a Chris code wave, can't ride a tachyon wave, will be cut free, and will stay. It would have stayed where it was, except it's being harnessed by what's called the Wiesadrak black hole now. And this Metatronic spiral is going to take it under what's called the threshold activation. It's going to take this planet and the falling part of this Vecca system into the Wiesadrak black hole. The Rainbow Bridge was an attempt to assist those races, not just on this planet, but in this whole universal Vecca system, who couldn't yet catch the frequencies and hold a crystal spiral link because they had too much Metatronic damage to their DNA and to their light bodies, to give them a chance to heal before Starfire. And it would be a spiral that we actually, at a certain activation, I think that would have been the dyad activation. Is that when we did it? Yeah, we activated the frequencies, and in the planetary grids and in the Vecca grids, our activation actually blasted a bit, where right when our spiral was activating is when the activations came through, hit their spiral, and created a break-off point. So some of what was going to fall actually got pulled up into a space where it had more potential to not get caught in this fall. It's not looking too good from what we hear as far as the rainbow isn't holding, because there's a bunch of people or a bunch of soul groups who are supposed to be holding that rainbow spiral who got into something with one of the fall groups called the Thetans, and had nothing to do with us, and I haven't even been given the news on it yet, other than the fact that the Tothian shield is fully falling, which means it got tangled in the Wisadrak threshold grid, and they were a big portion of those who were going to hold the rainbow spiral. So I will probably get update on that. I would say probably around Phoenix or something like that, but that's just new information. When we do the activations that we're doing, we're like, what does this have to do with sacred sex? It has plenty to do with sacred sex. If you think about your Rishite spiral, what do you want it to run? Do you want it to run at this angle? No. It has a lot to do with sex, and we'll see that before too long. Next one, please. This is just another part of the mess that is the Metatronic code, and it has this configuration here is called Metatron's cube. This is what... Just vaguely remember the funny axes that these things are on when you see some things later that have to do with sex, right? Because this is a configuration that the Metatronic frequencies, once the body goes fully Metatronic, it creates a certain part of the anatomy bears this alignment of light units as opposed to the natural Ruche structure, and that does a lot of different things, things that shouldn't be done in the human body. So just this structure is the mutation, and we'll see what is the mutation of. It's of a lot of things. It's a light body level mutation that's caused by those core mutations that started with reversing the Taran and creating the artificial vortex systems and all of those kind of things. Excuse me. Okay. This is remember we have our pillar of power and our Veka density system, and then the ethos system, and then our Echo would be in there, and then our parallel primal light field, etc. That we looked at these yesterday. This is basically the state of our Veka system right now. Its axis is broken, and its light body structure is compacting into. Do I have that here somewhere? Yeah. Wait a minute. It's down here. Into this structure. Instead of being the natural 636 seed atom, it has become what's called the 666 seed atom. And that is the sign of the beast. And the beast is the blank slate technology of the black hole systems that have been being built here for a very long time. Next one, please. What all that mess has done is create a situation where, I have said a long time ago, I won't get into the story of why Earth is hosting, but it is, and the beginnings of that story are explained in Voyagers Volume 2, where it talks about the fall of Amente and the fall of Tara, and how that all started. So that the Amente rescue mission was it was attempting to assist portions of a planet called Tara that is Universal Stargate 5 in density 2, and Earth, as we know it, is a product of that. Earth was a piece of Tara that was hosted into a density 1 natural stargate in order to try to bioregenerate it and get its light body structure back. Right now what we have is a situation where, let's say this is Eartha, the natural body of Stargate 3, and this was a smaller body that was actually placed in a containment field within the body of Eartha. This would be Earth. Now, Eartha still has its natural connection. It still has the ability to run frequencies with a portion of the sun that can still run frequencies on the natural arc and those kind of things. Eartha still has its seed atom and its Taran in the right position where it can phase, and Eartha is now doing the tachyon cycle in order to prepare for starfire. So Eartha will starfire, which means it will go through full tachyon activation and go to the point where it goes back through creation point and then gets rebirthed out again. And anything that can't ride that wave will go with the Eartha body, which will be caught in the threshold spiral, the threshold Metatronic golden meanie spiral, and go into Wisadrak black hole fall. So it's not that Earth is going to become a black hole unto itself. It's going to join a larger one that's already there. Right now, we're here. In between this body, and this is the light body. Somewhere down in here you'd have Earth, and this is part of the light body of Eartha. So somewhere around in here you would have the surface of Eartha, like where the place you'd walk on, right? It's interesting. I'm still trying to get the diagrams together where you take this. First you have to know the full light body structure of Earth, right? Then take that, and then you have to know the full light body structure of Eartha, then you need to put those two diagrams together with the right proportional relationships in order to see where exactly in Earth's atmosphere is the surface of Eartha. And that's what I was talking about before, where in our clouds there hangs a world. Actually, we're hanging in the middle of somebody else's world, but it's really our world. In here, there's a buffer field of radiation called the aurora field. And the aurora field, without getting complicated with it, allows us to bring in some of the natural elemental frequencies from Eartha in order to, for those who can hold those frequencies, in order to get us to the point where we can heal our light bodies enough to get out so we can ride with Eartha through starfire and not fall into the Metatronic black hole system. So right now we're working with what's called the Lights of Aurora activations as well. We just began those in Shasta, and they're really neat. The colors of these frequencies are really beautiful. We have the heliotalics that we always have been using for a long time now are like the pretty pale pastel metallic kinds. These are like neon metallics, but not garish. They have an amazing texture to them. So we're just beginning with the activations of the Lights of Aurora. But what they are allowing us to do is to anchor the elemental kingdom of the Eartha field. That right now, because there's so much mutation in this area here, that if we didn't have that assistance, we wouldn't be able to even bring in any of the elemental force from Eartha, and we would be trapped in the fall. But we aren't, because the Lights of Aurora field is there, and those who are the guardians of those layers of reality in this planetary system, they are assisting us, which means we must have passed the test. Yes, where there's life, there's hope. But I think it's more than that, because they're actually, if you were in a reality field that had an attempted host, right? Say you took a planet and its life forms into your living room and said, okay, you can stay here at my house and we'll try to help you feel better and get better. And what they did instead was attempt to take over your whole house and kill every one of your family and a whole bunch of other nasty things. You'd think really hard once you got them quarantined, say locked up in one room in your house, right? Fine. You stay there, right? Personally, I'd rather you go away and leave my house alone. But if you have to stay, stay there and don't hurt us anymore. Imagine the decisions they need to make about opening their gates to let anyone from here come through. There's a lot of love that takes, right? It takes a lot of love and a lot of trust and also a lot of faith in the guardian teams. And that means the Indigo team, because the Indigos have been given the commission of the one council from Eartha, as far as the one main overseer council from Eartha, that will work directly with the Eartha guardian councils and with the Crystal Lake councils from Core. And that is an honor. That means somehow we've managed to do our job at least decently enough, and that's pretty good. So even though the technologies, when we look at the mess that our planetary magnetic fields are in, when we look at those diagrams that show us how in your face this really is, yes, we do have a precession of the equinoxes, don't we? Because of the ecliptic, yes. Yes, it appears in nature, yes, that doesn't mean it's natural. So it might be frightening when we look at that, but more than the frightening, it's even more special when we look at what is being given to us to assist us to overcome this. The teachings we've been given at this point that go right to the core are the most sacred teachings ever. It's like even if you went back as space dust tomorrow, you'd be space dust that died with a smile on his face. Because there is a truth about source in here. This is a source that doesn't have to have, you don't have to call it this or call it that or call it anything. It is the one source that all of us came out of, and it belongs to every one of us. Whatever religion you were, or whatever religion you are, you can still be that religion if you want to be, but there is a truth in that encryption, and you can feel it when you work with the codes, especially now when they're coming. And it makes, when you start to feel what some of these codes, particularly the ones bringing the Eartha elements through, will do, you just realize that fear is unnatural, even in situations like this. It's something the elemental bodies that don't know any better, that are twisted in the mutation, will do. And you can actually learn to heal that, where you get to a point where you can say, I know that I might have been afraid if I encountered that before. I must have grown. Because I'm not. Right? Where it's always you surprise yourself, where you go, gee, that might have upset me before. but it really doesn't now. Wow. So there's a growing process with the elemental body and the emotional body. We can get to the point when we look at what's happening on this planet, we're not going to smile about it. I mean, it's sad that it had to go this way, that the other consciousness fields on this planet actually chose as a collective to allow this to happen. And they were extended help many, many times. And they refused it many, many times. In fact, they often would bite off the hand that tried to pull them out of the water, if you know what I mean. So at this point, we have something positive to look forward to. We don't have to worry about the fall anymore. That's on autopilot now. Before, we used to run around trying to stop it, right? Trying to help the grids, trying to support this, this area, travel all over the place to sacred sites that were plugged into the grids that if we could stabilize them enough, it might hold. And we lost that round, I mean, I'm not a sore loser. I can say, well, okay, the Metatronic bunch, yep, they'd already done enough damage where we couldn't pull it back. But boy, did we try. We annoyed the heck out of them, too. Because we'd do stands, and we'd be running the Merkabas, manually to override the mutation, and we'd be doing stands in the planetary grids to recode stargates to get them back to where they were supposed to be. So we didn't just let it go and say, oh, well, it's going to fall. We tried. But that part didn't work. And there are still many, many people that can ride the crystal spiral, that can make the crystal connection. And that is the connection that will allow us to first link in with the aurora fields so we can get into the spaces that are Eartha. And what's going to be interesting, it's literally going to be at some point going through a gate, and it may be, you may have to go down and in order to come up, because I know some of the gates work that way. You actually have to go, it looks like you're going down in like caverns in the earth, and then you pop out, and you end up out here someplace. All right, so it depends on, I don't know what these gate systems are going to look like, but I have a feeling it might mean there's a new set of gate systems opening that they didn't identify where they are yet. I have a feeling. We already have 25 different gate systems identified on the planet. Do I have one summary sheet of, you can't even remember how many anymore. I mean, and this is just the ones on the planet. We got the Polarian gates, we got the Ark of the Covenant gates, we've got the Trinity gates, we've got the which ones? Yeah, I mean, there's filler gates. But I do believe there'll be one more set, and they will be the Eartha gates, but they will be the Starfire gates, because they're the ones that, if anybody's going to Starfire or ride the crystal spiral through a natural rebirth cycle that this universe is going to go through, if anybody's going to do it from this planet, they're going to have to do it from Eartha, because Earth can't do it. And if you're stuck on Earth, that's where you will be stuck. So it's going to be inevitable at some point that they're going to take us in to visit, I would think. So we're getting prepared to be able to go visit. They may have us project there first through using the codes that you can feel the bio activations just by staring at them long enough. You can really start to feel those flame ones. I like those. We're going to be taught how to use those first to get through into a relationship with guardian races from Eartha, so we can start to communicate with them directly. And it's like, okay, what do we do now? Right? You guys know this better than us. What do we do now? Right? Show us the next step, please. So you won't just have to come to workshops here that always end up at bizarre hours. You'll be able to make your own connections progressively with some of the guardian races and the aurora races from Eartha. And what that has to do with sacred sex is a lot, actually. We're almost there. Good. That's just showing. Well, good. That's the last one. Okay. All right. Now, there's only 4 more. Now, actually, I could do those first. It's freezing in here. Am I the only one freezing? Okay, I think I'll save those for last, and I'll put these in first. Okay. Here we go. There's only 3, and one you saw part of, but it wasn't done yet. That's the top one. Top one first, please. This is a little bit more functional version of the one I showed you yesterday that was, you could hardly even see it, where it lists, it shows you the Ruchete spirals, it shows you the electrical set and the magnetic set that come out. The magnetics run off these, the twisting pillars of the 4 inner ones. The electricals run off these. These are supposed to be spinning clockwise while these spin counterclockwise. All right. These have everything to do with all sorts of things, like your chakras. They form your chakras. It's the expansion and contraction of the Ruchete spirals that opens and closes the chakra centers on the body. This is, finally I got that one done, shows the chakra configurations that run the 15 chakra system on the body when it's functioning naturally. You have a front vortice on all of these, of the little ones that would stick out, and a back one, and the two side ones, and a top one that would be running up the center vertical column, and a down one that would be running downward. I only show the horizontals on here because if I tried to put the verticals in too, it would have just blocked all up where you couldn't have seen anything. It's pretty heavy as it is. But these are all the chakra systems. Some of these chakras, and this is determined by, if you look at the chakras form between these spinning currents of the Rushate. And each one have very specific dimensional frequencies that we don't have to worry about now, but they're each keyed. This is like a mix master. It brings in and blends different frequencies very specifically from different subfrequency bands within a dimensional scale. But these particular ones, say chakra 2, it has the electrical vortice here, and then if you look at this, the magnetic one also has a vortice here. Now what they look like when you put them together is this. So you'd have an open inner magnetic vortice and an outer electrical vortice that is here. Now this diagram is still pretty rough. It's not finished. I didn't have enough time to finish it all. So you'd have the electrical one and the magnetic one open on that one. Now there are other ones. If you follow these up, you go up to the next layer. The dark ones here refer to when they're crossing the void spaces of the Iyumbi and the Azure and the Rajna. I'll take this one, because this is the one we're going to be talking about tonight, which is the first chakra. The first chakra is your base chakra, and it's not just a cone that goes downward. It has is supposed to have a natural chakra configuration, which should have at least the 4 electrical ones sticking out horizontally, plus the up one and the down one. Now, chakra 1, if you bring this over here, you'll see in the alignment of the Rushate, of the currents, the magnetic and the electrical currents that are running. And this is actually, I believe, ethos current running downward, and this is eros running upward, something like that. But what's important to see on this is some of these, there's a seal on these chakras, where up here you see an open vortice here because of the way the proportions of these currents run with each other. This would be open. If you look here, they're open. If you look down this one, the ball part is facing the vortice part on this one. That implies a seal. All right, it's like a film seal membrane in the cores and also on the outer parts of those chakras. Now, if you bring it over to where they're together, you'll see that there are certain chakras that have seals in them and certain ones that don't. The ones that have seals in them don't have the magnetic vortices drawn on them, but the seals run on the center vertical line of the chakra, and they actually serve to polarize the chakra. So it's not running at its full capacity. Its energies are polarized. There's a thing that can occur, and it does occur naturally, when we are able to activate our light body structure under natural circumstances, where these seals release and these vortices blend. See, I didn't have enough time to do these all clear, but they're clearer than they were yesterday. Where we have here, these are the chakra numbers, the lineups of them, where the chakras start to blend, where chakras 5 and 6 merge at the Rajna. So 5 and 6, 5 goes up, 6 goes down, and they merge at the Rajna. Then you have 8 and 4 merge at the Azure. So 8 comes down and 4 comes up, and they merge there, and they form a large vortice. So this one formed a large vortice here. This one formed a large vortice set here. And 2 and 3 merge at the Iyumbi, which would be here. You have 3 come down and 2 go up, and they merge there, and they open this large vortice here. This is the beginning of setting in motion a very special activation set that has to do with sacred sex. I'm wondering if I want to get into this before or after we do the loo break. Just put it up for a second. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to put this up, talk about it briefly, and then take a break before it gets too late, where we can't take the break before the thingy. But I want you to see some of these. Pardon my bit explicit illustration. Yeah. All right. She's smiling. Wait till you see her on the other one. Now, all of these chakras, right, are the dimensional chakras, right? They're the ones that correspond to each dimensional level of the body. And what we're showing them on right now is the D2 body, which is this body, the physical body that you're walking around in, right? we usually show the things on the D3 body, where we're working with the mental body. This time we're dealing with the D2 body directly. Each one of these chakras corresponds to one of the layers of the auric fields. There's a diagram I did not have time to do where they just showed me that, you know, the diagrams of the Partiki and the Jaleesic states? I have to plug that into that because these are the 15 Jaleesic states. Yeah. Yeah. I went, oh, cool. We're walking around in a big Partiki, right? That implies a Taran somewhere, does it not? A big one. So there's more diagrams to come. But each of these corresponds to a level of these, which means if certain things activate in these, it will appear, and directly, these will send energy directly out through into that area of the auric field. I also know that the Brennan bodies have something to do with this layer, but I'm not going to just say, well, I know they're the etheric bodies there. Etheric is a very vague term when you have all sorts of different etherics and ethoses and eroses and magnoses and electroses and all sorts of different currents. So, yes, they're etheric, and some of them are catheric, and some of them are keriatric, and some of them are atmic, and some of them are atomic. So there are currents that are in these bodies, and they are not atomic as we know them here because they appear to be etheric. So the chakras connect to the auric layers, which connects to what are commonly known out in our world there as the etheric bodies, which are actually template bodies. These are the Jaleesic bodies, and I know that much. I figured that much out already, but I don't know how they fit. But I know we're going to learn how to work with them directly, but from the inside out. Because right now, if you try to fix them directly, all you do is help to reset the metatronic mutation that is being carried in the seed seals. So there's this whole thing that occurs with each dimensional chakra is connected to a dimensional shield. When certain things happen in the seed seal, remember a long time ago we talked about every chakra has a little seed crystal seal, and in between the chakras there are star crystal seals, which actually open up, one dimension to the other, but the seed ones anchor the vortices into, a dimension, and the seed crystal seals inside the chakras have been carrying the Metatronic program right now. And what they do is they run energy. They're part of the circulation system. They run it through the shield. It comes out to the part of the crystal body called the teleosphere. It fires the teleosphere. Now, the teleosphere, I don't have pictures of that right now, but it's like it comes out into the outer light body. We call it the crystal body, right? And then it circulates energy back. The one chakra circulates it out. The other set will circulate it back through, pick it up, and take it back in. It goes through the lotus points and all the different other layers of the anatomy. But these are a key part of the holographic manifestation process, each dimensional level and each dimensional subharmonic. See all these dimensional levels, and this is just your D2 body, right? So these are all the dimensional subharmonics as they're running in D2. That means every dimension will have 15 Jaleesic states attached to it as well. So these, I just wanted you to know that when something occurs in the crystal seals, it there then spreads out through the shields. If we remember how shields work, where when the center, if it's like, say, the center, if we were at a Yumbi, if the Yumbi fired, right, sparked, it would send a pulse of 12 sparks out through the shield, right? And they would trigger what are called the nodes in the center of what are called the teleospheres of the crystal body. And that would create the activation of the axiotonal lines and the meridian lines. And that would create the activation of the inner currents that bring down the natural Yanyan energy flows, the electromagnetic flows. So there's this whole set of circulation that the chakras are actually key to. The chakras have been hijacked, just like the rest of the crystal body structure has, by the environmental influences here. And we are going to be given an opportunity tonight to be able to begin the process of really undoing that quickly. Now, we started it with activation of the Taran in its natural position. We started our own starborn rebirth cycle with this process. But it's a process that takes a while. There's a lot of phases to it. Now, we're going to be given a gift tonight that's going to assist us in the process of very, very rapidly releasing all of those seals. When you release those seals, they let those chakras blend together. You could not do this with a mutation in chakra 1 the way it has been holding since the mutation took on this planet. Chakra 1 has been a key, and I knew this, but I could never figure out why. What's so special about chakra 1? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know it's down there, but there's something about it. It was like a big secret that I could feel there was something, but I could never put my finger on it or even, try to guess what it might be. Well, what's amazing Never would have guessed. Never in a million years. What this is called the Shadi middle seed atom. You know how we have our seed atom at our azure, right, in our bodies? And behind that seed atom are the things that created the seed atom, which is where you go all the way down into the core, and that's where you have your taurin, and that's the thing that is generating tachyons in your cycle, you know, that's progressively healing and progressively resetting the light body back onto its natural order. Well, there's the level of domains before the outer domains that our universes are in, and they are the Edon domains. They call them the Edon domains. Right? They were, remember how we talked about there was the core domain that we saw the expansion cycle of, and then there was another expansion cycle that would be the inner one, then another one that would be the middle one, and then the outer one that is ours, right? Well, this is the middle domain we're talking about. There's a seed atom for the middle domain, just like there was for the core domain, just like there is for the outer domain. The seed atoms for the outer domain are stationed in the outer Cathara grids at the azure. The seed atoms will always be at the azures. However, the relationships between positions of Cathara grids from the inner domains to the outer domains and the middle ones in between could be very interesting. What we find is that here, in relation to our chakra 1, now our seed atom's up here in our azure. There's another Cathara grid running. This is our Edonic body. That's our middle domain body from the Jardin de Vidon. This is its azure. It's at our chakra 1, which means that's where its seed atom is. Yeah. This is the monadic level. If you take that back down, it'll take you right down to the triad of the Edon level. This gives us a unique opportunity to combine the activations of our monadic level with the activations of our own selves there, because it implies, if you're out here, it implies you had a self there too. So we're going to connect with our own elemental signature, whatever it was we left behind when we passed out from there into the outer domains. We are going to imprint it with who we are now. So the Edons have an imprint of us, so we are therefore compatible with them. There's something that can be done that you don't have to have sex to do this, by the way. However, those who want to, there are ways you can actually learn to go back to the garden faster or go back for a visit and those kind of things. All of this is connected. There's, in this one area of the body, it's not just on girls. On the other, I'll show the other page, please. Yeah, equal time. Now, you saw the monadic cluster there, right, in the shield? Well, I whited those out just so you could see what else was going on there, right? Monads phase, where those top balls come together and spark, right? These areas here were where there's something called the spark line, where the two balls here would come together, the two light cells here come together, and they'd spark. On the female, that first spark point on top is the clitoris. On the male, it is the base of the penis. It's actually down in here where it kind of hooks on to the scrotum. And that's one spark point. There is another on both male and female, and that spark point when these two light cells come together is the anus, and it sparks there. Now, there are two other spark points that are over here from the side ones. And these have to do with, I forget what they're called, but there's a set of glands that are like right where you kind of, your leg kind of hooks on, but still up in your private parts. So you can see them in like medical books and stuff. They name them. I forget what they're called. And I think male and female have them. But if males don't have those, I know females do, I think. I don't know. One of them has them. Maybe we both have them. But there are a set of glands, and they spark. Now, what we're talking about is sparking Kelana sparks. Okay? When those spark, they cause the inner ones. When these outer balls that I'm not showing here so you can actually see closer detail of what's lining up with what. All right. When these outer ones make these outer sparks, the outer sparks travel inward. They hit the other inside 4 light cells. Remember, these light cells are what the things that are running the Richet spiral, right? Okay, so you have currents coming up and down out of these as they're going. But these currents are running right through these parts of your body. And these are the parts that can spark once they're freed from the mutation. Now, this is a natural sparking process. This is what sexuality, sacred sexuality, is supposed to be about. We have, once these phases spark and the sparks start to move inward toward the center, it makes the next ones, the inner spirals. This is what controls the seals all the way up. Those little seals on the chakras all the way up. All right. These, when they spark, they will progressively begin the release of the seals on the chakras all the way up, so the chakras are able to blend. So you're able to, go into. Well, eventually that leads to the Rochelet flame body activation. So what we're going to be giving the ability to do is, now normally we will be doing this with our own monad. Our monad